What's up, guys? UFC Paris fight night. Imavov versus Borralho just ended, and I am here to give you guys a recap of the fights and tell you guys how I did predictions wise. Um, our group, I am actually the one who won our group this week. I got 9 out of the 13 fights right, and 3 of the methods of victory perfect. So did pretty well overall, and I will go straight into the card after saying how you guys can win $100 by watching the channel and by joining my Tapology group. If you guys join my Tapology group at tapology.com/group/2048, I'll put it down in the description. It's in the description of every single video that I put out. You guys can join, and I think I'm going to change this to every single pay-per-view. I will be putting out the $100 payout, but I'm going to switch it to every single pay-per-view. I don't know if I can consistently afford to, if I don't win just yet, every single weekend do this. But every pay-per-view I can definitely do. That'll be no problem at all. That'll be a very easy thing, because I almost wasn't able to pay one of our dudes from the last fight night, and I felt really bad about it because I had to delay it until pretty much today to do it. So I apologize about that, but I'm gonna switch it to every single pay-per-view. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and break down the fights. I'm gonna start with the main event, and then I am going to move from here down to the early prelims. So, Nasruddin Imavov defeating Caio Borralho by a decision. Overall, his boxing was just better. It's what I thought would kind of happen overall in the fight. I don't know. The fight wasn't super fun. I said it was fun initially when I watched it, but it wasn't really that fun of a fight. There wasn't much enjoyment because every time Borralho really had some success, Nasruddin would somehow just cheat his way out of that moment. He would either, come forward with eye pokes and, crash forward, or Borralho would be coming forward and he would just stick his fingers directly in the eyes of Borralho. It was very obnoxious to sit there and watch. I didn't enjoy it at all. I did initially, but sitting back and actually recapping the fight, I really didn't like the fight. It was obnoxious to sit there and see Imavov ruin a somewhat good performance with blatant fouls where they just don't get penalized. He got told 3 times to stop eye poking, and he still kept extending his fingers out whenever Borralho would come forward. So yeah, I'm right about the pick. Yes, it was a perfect method of victory, but I just almost don't really care. It's not fun to watch. It ruins a day where the fighting nerds could have had a really good day, but I also thought Imavov was going to win the fight. So speaking of ruining the day for the fighting nerds, we move down the card to the co-main event. It was an extremely impressive performance from Imavov, by the way. I'm upset because of how much he cheated in the fight, so I don't really want to cover it too much. We have Benoit Saint-Denis defeating Mauricio Hufi by a crossface. He didn't even have a choke in or anything, so it's very upsetting to watch Hufi lose this way. It makes you question the toughness of him, especially when guys like Tommy Guns McMillan on the regional scene, or on Dana White's Contender Series, from the regional scene, though, was caught in a much worse position crank-wise and, pressure across the face, stuff like that. Much worse positions. Didn't tap to any pressure. Didn't tap like a little bitch. But that's how it felt. Mauricio Hufi got bitched in this fight, and and he got pressured into making silly mistakes. There were times where he had top position after either sweeping or reversing Benoit Saint-Denis, and he should have kept top position and pounded on him, wore him down. If he wanted his highlight, I understood. He wants his highlight. I get it. Stand him up. Wait until you've hurt him really bad to the body. Wear on his body while you're on top. Hit him up top. Make sure he covers his head a lot. Hit him to the body so he'll be slow, won't want to shoot those takedowns when he gets up, and then highlight him. I hate that it feels like fighters don't understand these types of things, that they should do these setups. But Mauricio Hufi, a guy who does set up things, I don't understand why he didn't keep top position. I know he's a striker, but Benoit Saint-Denis' back, like his jiu-jitsu off of his back is not good. Horrific performance from Hufi. Benoit Saint-Denis pressured him into a bad performance as well, but that was also just Hufi being a bitch about it. Like, I don't know. Anyways, I'm upset about this performance. I hate that I got my fight pick wrong. I hate seeing one of my favorite fighters lose the way that he lost. It's so upsetting for me to feel like one of my favorite fighters is just straight up a bitch. But I don't know. I know he would hurt me in a fight. I get it. He would harm me really badly. He would face crank me and probably make me tap, but I'm a lot smaller than him. It takes guys a lot bigger than me in jiu-jitsu to face crank me and make me tap like that. It's very upsetting performance from Mauricio Hufi. I love Mauricio Hufi. He's one of my favorite fighters, but now I'm very, very upset with his performance. I just hate it because his takedown defense looked bad. It looked worse than when he was on Contender Series. Like, just overall, he didn't look good. It looks like he's been training flashy striking since he got in the UFC, and that's it. I don't know. It was tough to watch. It was a very hard performance to watch as a fan of Mauricio Hufi. Anyways, moving to the light heavyweight division in the feature fight, we've got Modestas Bukauskas versus Paul Craig. Paul Craig almost surviving out the entire... I mean, he did survive the entire length of the round, but he died right at the end. Modestas lands nasty elbow while he's, turtled up in guard after pulling guard, and finishes the fight. Vicious elbow right as the buzzer rings. It's like a buzzer beater kind of thing, the net, it just swishes right in as the buzzer's going off. Perfect shot. Great shot by Bukauskas. Really put out Paul Craig there with that last shot. Sorry, my cat is rooting on the desk. This one here. She's pushing her face all over the desk. But, yeah. Paul Craig ends up losing via knockout. Ends up retiring as well at the end of the fight. Well, I guess me having this cat upset the other one. So now that she's here or gone, I will put her in her bed. Anyways, Paul Craig retires. Sad retirement to see. You love seeing Paul Craig get knocked out in funny, goofy ways. Even his guard pulling couldn't save him, which is kind of crazy. His kick of doom came out. Like, he was body kicking a lot. Great performance from him, the Paul Craig-like performance. Honestly, he lasted longer than I thought he would. I thought Modestas Bukauskas was going to blitz through him. There were a couple times where the literal first blitz that Modestas Bukauskas did was he came forward just swinging, and as Paul Craig backed up, he literally did this exact motion and then went to the fence like this. And Bukauskas then clinched him. And I was like, you have to be joking. He literally opened himself up for you to knock him out, and you chose not to. I almost feel like Bukauskas was just giving him a mercy in the first few minutes of the fight, but nah, I'm joking. I don't know why he didn't knock him out earlier. He had plenty of opportunities. Maybe he just didn't see the shots. Maybe he didn't believe that it was going to be there. But Ends up knocking him out in the end. Nasty elbows, nasty ground and pound. It was fun. Moving on. We will go down to the lightweight division where Mason Jones survives a massive storm from Borralho, defeating him in round number 2 via TKO. I thought that this fight was going to go not exactly like this, but if he did have to weather a storm, I did think Mason Jones was going to weather a storm, and then he would have the cardio advantage. His grappling advantage was going to get this fight to the ground in each round, and I believe he did so in both rounds. Yeah, because he dominated the very end of the first round, and, he was hurt extremely bad in the very first round, moments into it, if I'm not mistaken, and got dropped a couple times, if I'm not mistaken. 10-8 round for sure from Borralho in that first round. He definitely saved himself from being 10-7, if you will. But yeah, Mason Jones, great job of fighting his way back into the first round and wearing down Borralho by getting the takedown and, just literally working his way back in, doing full mixed martial arts, sitting there attacking the legs, body, shooting takedowns, forcing Aki to sit there and think and not be able to do these massive strikes all the time. It was an incredible performance from him. Honestly, Mason Jones getting him down on the second round, then dominates him, lands some big ground and pound, and just finishes Borralho. Definitely could have probably been some more ground and pound to really seal the deal. Thought the stoppage was a little sooner than it could have been. There were definitely a lot of early stoppages. And speaking of early stoppages, I'm going to move right into one where I think it was Herb Dean had a horrific stoppage. And it was in this fight of Axel Souza. God, I did this in my prediction video and didn't do it at all during my fight companion. And now I'm doing it in the recap again. Axel Sola versus Reese McKee. Axel Sola beating him by knockout in round number 3. Although I did think this was I think it was a pretty close fight. Axel may have been up, especially with the judges in Paris. But Reese McKee, doing very well in the fight, ends up getting dropped with a body shot in the third round, and goes to the ground, and Axel Sola starts landing some ground and pound, and it's very light, it's taps like this probably, just across the head. And Herb Dean then just steps in immediately, almost near immediately. And it upsets you because you're sure, yes, I'm mad because I picked Reese McKee to finish him in round 3. Sure, maybe it could have been the other way around had the other. I don't know. It's bullshit. It makes me mad because this shouldn't have been a stoppage. But it is what it is. Reese McKee got robbed of at least getting to go to the next couple minutes of the fight. I don't think that was going to be a stoppage. He was hurt to the body initially, and normally you don't recover from that, and maybe that's why Herb stopped it, but there's no reason for the stoppage from the strikes to the head, at least. He was not in any way, shape, or form, being harmed anymore. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to move on to the next fight where William Gomes defeats Robert Ruchela by decision. I thought that the skill gap difference was going to make William Gomes get a finish, and I was incorrect. So William Gomes ends up going to decision yet again, even with a guy who is debuting in the UFC. So very unimpressive fight. It was very boring. It was a very William Gomes level performance. There were some exciting moments here and there, but it was so here and there that it wasn't a fun watch. You never enjoy watching William Gomes almost, outside of when he's having to be forced to fight by guys like Hyder Emil or Joe Anderson Brito. Anyways, moving on to the next fight, which was one I thought was going to be unexciting, and maybe I'm just wrong about this guy in general. Omar Sy. Um, in the light heavyweight division, he's defeating Bringenson Ribeiro by round number 1 knockout. I thought the elbow to the back of the head was what started the finishing sequence, so I would have liked to at least seen the fight be looked at in that way. But I get it. They're in Paris. They're not going to really worry about that kind of thing there, at least especially for one of the French fighters, unless it happened to them. But yeah, Bringenson Ribeiro just cut this guy from the UFC. He doesn't deserve to be here. He loses to every single somewhat athletic guy there is. And it's just way too often. He only beats the shittiest fighters. Anyways, Omar Sy, very good performance. He looked really good. Very good strikes on the feet. Just a typical Omar Sy performance. Ends up getting Bringenson down to the ground, beating him up on the ground, and then landing some back of the head elbows that I thought were there. But yeah, that's how he finished him in my opinion. But yeah, moving on to the heavyweight division. We've got Ante Delija defeating Marcin Tybura by round number 1 knockout. I did not know this dude had 3 fucking nipples. This is insane. 3 nipples. He had 2 here, and then 2 here. So, wild. It was like a full-on nipple. Crazy. Never seen this in my life. But, wild. Insane. It distracted the hell out of me the entire time that I was watching this fight. Kind of grossed me out. I wouldn't have wanted to fight against him. There were a couple times where Marcin Tybura was clinched up with him on the side of the opposite, the 2 nipples, and I was like, bro, smart idea. I would not put my face on those. And then the moment I said that on the fight companion, he immediately slid over and put his face on the double nipple side. So I don't know what was wrong with Marcin Tybura, but he wasn't thinking right. But Ante Delija looked really, really fast for a heavyweight, at least with his hands. That might just be that Marcin Tybura is 39 years old, so I do take that into account that he is 39. So let's see this next performance from Ante Delija. But really good performance from him. Finished a guy who some people, or quite a few people, I think, were picking to win this fight. And I felt like one of the few who, I might be wrong, but I felt like one of the few guys who was picking Ante Delija, but I'm not sure. But I got my fight pick completely perfect. First round finish. I thought this was going to happen. Anyways, moving to the next fight, we've got Harry Hardwick being defeated by leg kicks. Harry Hardwick, short notice, he was incredibly tough. He ate horrific leg kicks. But, my God, man, learn to check a kick or back out of range at least from the kicks and then counter them. Step in right after. Follow those kicks right after. Or if you're going to get blasted by a kick, you better fucking counter it. You better get after him as soon as he lands on that kick. Anyways, impressive performance from Coy Fernandez. He keeps just having these really good performances, and he was getting clipped at some times while throwing those kicks, but not soon enough from Harry Hardwick. Just overall bad performance from him, but it is what it is. Moving on to Sam Patterson defeating Trey Waters in round number 1 by knockout. There was a bit of a filling out process in this first round, and then just all of a sudden, because they just kept jabbing each other at range and kind of 1-2ing each other at range. These dudes are really long, kicking, long range kicks, tapping the legs, and then just all of a sudden Sam Patterson steps in with another strike, a second strike, if you will, rather than just the one. He was sitting there 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2 is how he got him, and he hurt Trey Waters real bad, and then just started overwhelming him. Another fight that I think, if I'm not mistaken, was kind of early stopped, but I would have definitely liked it to have gone a little longer, if I'm not mistaken. But impressive performance. I picked him by submission. I got the round right, but I just thought he would kind of overwhelm Trey Waters being the taller of the two guys. I thought that Sam Patterson's going to realize I need to overwhelm this guy early and often and get him out of here as soon as possible, because if he really settles in with kicks and longer range attacks, I'm going to have a problem. Anyways, moving on to the middleweight division, we have Robert Brychek defeating Brad Tavares, and this was an impressive performance, to be honest. Like, it definitely surprised me. I didn't think a guy who lost to Ihor Potieria was going to come in and defeat Brad Tavares, a veteran of the game the way he is. Maybe Brad's just a little too old and can't eat a shot the same way he used to be able to, but maybe Brychek just hits really hard, and maybe Ihor Potieria could just eat his shots. I don't know. Anyways, drops Tavares a couple times in the first round, 10-8 round if I'm not mistaken. And then ends up losing the second round if I'm remembering right, due to grappling. And Tavares just doesn't really grapple in the third round and ends up getting clipped pretty big and ends up getting finished. But I think this was an early stoppage too, if I'm not wrong. Like, I can't remember quite too well. But I feel like this was an early stoppage. But yeah. Anyways. Got the fight pick wrong. It is what it is. Moving on to another one we got wrong. Renat Fakhretdinov defeating Andreas Gustafsson by round 1 knockout very early into the round. I think it was within the first minute. What can I say? The racial motivation was not there for Andreas Gustafsson. If you know, you know. Renat Fakhretdinov is, I guess, too pale for Andreas Gustafsson to have that kind of racial hatred towards. Like I said, if you know, you know, because he has some tattoos covered up that certainly indicate some things. But yeah, unless he's changed his lifestyle, but based on how his last fight went, I don't think so. Yeah. Fakhretdinov comes out, lands a clean straight right on the tip of Gustafsson's chin. And Gustafsson does not have one of these, like, good jaws for a straight shot. He's got good side shot jaw, but not for the straight on shot. He ate it right on the tip of the chin and wobbles him, and then Fakhretdinov just overwhelms him with big shots. Another one where I feel like we could have let a few more land, but it's all right. It's all right. Fakhretdinov wins. Good bounce back for him. Really showed the levels of fighting between him and Gustafsson. Gustafsson was throwing some terrible strikes, honestly. It looked quite horrible pretty often. Anyways, moving on to Sam Hughes defeating Sean O'Bannon by submission. I don't remember this fight. It was a women's fight. It was exciting, though, to be honest. They had fun. I enjoyed watching it. There were good moments. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. Like I said, guys, if you guys want to win $100 per pay-per-view, please sign up for my Tapology and try to make fight picks and be the best one at it. You just have to beat people like me and the other 8 or so people that typically make picks. Have a great rest of y'all's day. I'll have the Tapology link in the down in the comments below, and the description. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy the fights every night that y'all watch them, and like, subscribe, do all that. Bye.